Don Hill, Tampa Bay Real Producers, coming at you with our Tampa Bay Real Producer podcast. The podcast made for real producers by real producers, and we have none other but a real producer here today, Mr. Conor Green. How you doing, my man?
I'm doing good. Thank you, sir.
It's good to have you here. I'm glad you can make it.
Thank you.
Yeah, no doubt.
I'm very honored to be here. I'll do my best to provide some value.
We're going to have fun, bro. We're going to have fun. We're just going to dive through, talk about your story a little bit. Just as a little side note, we're coming at you from the studios over on the corner of West Shore and Kennedy. Here in the studios with the Real Mac Moves, my man J Mac and Ryan Owens helping us out with the production. Shout out to my peeps. And let's go ahead and dive in here, Conor. So I think what makes sense usually is just to get started a little bit with your background. You know, you're from Tampa Bay. How did you get here? If not, let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So most people here aren't from here. I'm from New Jersey initially. I've been here for about a decade. Jersey. I don't gym tan laundry, in case you're wondering. I don't do that. I do gym and I do laundry, actually, just not the tanning part, I guess. But I came down here for school initially, studied entrepreneurship, marketing, started my own digital marketing agency after school, was working with some realtors and noticed a value gap in kind of the proliferation of digital marketing on a high level in the real estate industry, in the sense that the people that I was working with were selling multi-million-dollar homes. And so they were saying, okay, well, half the reason I'm being hired is to market the property. I don't have the skill set to market it online. Let me hire someone. They were smart enough to do that, and they were making a lot of money.
Yep.
Under maybe, let's say, $1 million at that point, no one's doing it. Like, there really wasn't a lot going on. And that was also the same time where people were getting empowered. For sale by owner is a huge thing. People were trying that out a lot more. We saw those numbers spike up year over year in terms of people trying that out. And so I just think there was a value gap equation which realtors have been solving over the past 5 years in terms of deepening their value proposition and transitioning with the empowerment of the seller. And that's kind of what drove me into real estate.
And that was, what year did you get licensed?
20. You actually said it last time. I was like, yeah, that sounds about
18,
right.
Was it? Yeah. So
I'm just gonna quote you.
Conor was featured in one of our, as a rising star. Actually, he did over 17 million last year. Did over 20 something units last year in volume. So many of you are familiar with our magazine and our platform. We met Conor by featuring him as a rising star. I think that was the December issue, if I remember correctly, where your first spotlight was in. Yeah. And then even recently, we did another spotlight with Conor. We'll talk about that more in a minute with one of the nonprofits that you're affiliated with, as well. So we'll discuss that in a few minutes. But so you came from Jersey. I know you mentioned school real quick. You kind of passed through it though fast. I just got to throw this out there. We did go to the same school. Sure. So, you know, we're both University of Tampa grads, fellow Spartans, right? Yeah. Shout out to the Spartans.
I was there
over there
last night, actually. I was there for, they had an alumni award ceremony. And little shout out, their Little Saint Nick Foundation, incredible charity that they were honoring yesterday. They basically give presents to kids in the emergency room to change their experience.
That's awesome.
And they've done that for 2 million kids over the past 5 years. The crazy thing is the guy who started when he was in an emergency room when he was 4.
Wow.
And then when he was 5 is when he started it.
It's amazing. There's always a really cool story behind how so many of these nonprofits get started, isn't there? And just, you know, it's something that tugs at your heart, and next thing you know, there's a real need for it out there in the market. So, so you graduated from UT what year?
2017.
And then did you get immediately into the digital agency that you started? Correct. Did that happen while you were in school, right out of school?
A little bit of both, yeah. Okay. Started pretty much a little bit before then, but after is when I transitioned from working at a digital agency, shout out to Sparksoo, and did my own. It was Green Matchbox.
Okay.
It's a digital marketing agency.
That was your company?
Yeah.
Got you.
Yeah. And I loved it.
Pretty quickly, you kind of transitioned into using that skill set to build up the real estate brand, right?
Yeah, so the one part I left out was I was always interested in investing in real estate.
Yep.
And that was always where I wanted to invest my money. And while I love digital marketing, I wasn't able to fully apply myself. And real estate's the only job that I've ever had where I've able to fully apply myself. And that is the only way where I'm truly fulfilled and happy.
That's awesome.
And so that's a big part of why I transitioned to, not just because I thought it was a good financial opportunity, not just because that's where I wanted to invest my money, but also because that's where I could fully apply myself.
And why do you think that is? What is it about real estate that's been so rewarding for you that even though you're still what we would call a rising star, you haven't even been licensed yet. I guess you're coming up on 5 years now that you've been licensed. What is it about it that you think really resonates with you? And, gives you those feelings of being rewarded, building a business that means something. Why is that?
I think it's the complexity of the problems that have financial components to them. They have emotional components. So there's a lot of logistical, cold facts and coordination, but then there's the emotional human side to it too, where these are huge decisions for people. The result of the decision, if they're selling their home, for example, has a huge emotional impact on them and their next step. But the fact that they're even selling and moving somewhere is a big deal, or the fact that they're moving into this area is a huge deal. They're not familiar with it. They have a family. They've got kids. So there's a lot of cold, and I say cold because it's just logistics, right? So there's a lot of that, which I like. But then there's the
You got that analytical mind.
warm component to it too. Yeah, and I love being able to do that. So, as a realtor, if you don't already know, you're a therapist, you're you're everything. You wear a lot of hats. So it's a lot of fun, and the complexity is there with all those. So I think that's what it is.
Are you still involved on the investing side as well?
Yeah.
Yeah. Single family type stuff, or what do you like to get into?
So this is probably a tangent, but I've done a little bit of a rabbit hole into land hacking.
Land hacking.
So that's
I'm familiar. Yeah.
That's my current focus.
Nice.
Actually.
Nice.
Yes.
That's cool. So if those of you who might not know, land hacking is basically finding some vacant land and being able to flip it to usually a bigger builder or a developer, or somebody who wants to build up a subdivision, usually is what you would do with it. Is that accurate?
Yes, there's that component. That's one angle to it. Another component is if you want to buy, let's just say you want to utilize some land you want to have 4 short-term rentals on it.
Yep.
The value's in the land, but you want to be able to buy that land just with a normal loan. Well, then find a piece that has that land, and who cares what the house looks like? But because there's a house there, you can get a normal loan, and you can then, use that house ideally as part of your vision. Maybe it's not the ideal part, but it's kind of the concrete fact that allows you to get that normal loan. And then you can use the land and stuff where you want, whether it's parceling it out like you're talking about.
Yep.
And then that's the development side, or doing it but basically maintaining the property for yourself.
Has this become part of your business model as well? Is that more of just like a personal project that you've done for wealth building opportunities and enjoy doing on that end? Option B.
Yeah. There's obviously a lot of development going on in St. Pete. Development's something that the NO B.S. group is doing a lot more of. We've got an exclusive development project in Madeira Beach right now. It's a luxury townhome development with David and Paul. They're the developers that are spearheading that.
Cool.
So we are doing development and all, but as far as that land hacking part, you kind of have to get a little outside of this area. It's a little too developed for that kind of part.
Got to go up where I live, up on the northern boundary, right?
You got to see a couple of cows.
52.
You got to see a couple of cows.
Brooksville area.
Yeah.
There's some opportunities up there.
Go.
Yeah, I get it.
Up there, yes, though.
You mentioned your team name. I love the team name. The No B.S. group. Is that the name of the group?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. There's a whole series of books out there, by the way. Are you familiar with Dan Kennedy? Do you know him as a marketing expert?
I know of him. I haven't read some of his books.
If you Google him, he's got I don't even know, maybe 50 to 100 books. They're all under that brand of No B.S.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's awesome.
I really hope I didn't just completely plagiarize.
Maybe we just blew it up. I don't know. But it's really, really great stuff. I've learned a lot actually from him and studying his marketing approaches and how he goes about it.
We do almost have a trademark on it, so I'm going to throw that out there.
There you go.
So Dan's too slow to the punch.
Well, I think he even has a whole section on No B.S. marketing, I believe it is, for real estate agents.
Oh, really?
And so there was a book out there on how to be able to just brand yourself. And I wanted to talk about that a little bit more with you, with your background in digital agency. How did that play a role in you building your company and your brand? And I'm assuming it still does. Would you consider that a strong skill set for you? Is just that knowledge base that you have about the digital agent, digital marketing world? Has that been a big source of lead generation for you and, been kind of the fuel for you building your brand the way you have?
Definitely a huge component. Definitely a big strategical advantage that the team has. And it's one of those things where, for example, if you're on the selling side, you could get a property in front of 1 million people. But if the property is $1 million and those 1 million people are all 18 to 22,
That ain't going to work.
you're probably going to get 0 offers.
Yep.
You might get some people that like it or comment on it or any of that stuff. But if you can't get in front of the right people, you're not going to get the traction that you want.
Right.
And that's only become harder over time with the housing. I usually just say HUD, but I think it's housing and urban development.
Yep.
There are rules which has basically restricted a lot of digital marketing, where before you could target things even more specifically, but now to prevent discrimination, which obviously I totally agree with, and there's really good reasons why they've implemented those restrictions. Now there's a lot of restrictions.
See, I'm all about discrimination. What do you think, Ryan? I think that discrimination in marketing is necessary. I mean, I can't imagine marketing without discrimination. It just doesn't make sense.
It's one of those things where there's sense to both sides. There's always someone that comes around and ruins it, right? All the rules that you don't like, it's because the rule kind of seems like an over restriction, but someone ruined it at some point.
Right.
Someone ruined the fun.
Even Facebook now, I think, has changed the way you can market on their algorithms as far as like for real estate specifically, right?
Yeah, it's a special category, so 15-mile radius, bunch of different things.
Right. They make it easy on us, don't they?
Yeah.
No doubt.
Yeah.
So how did the No B.S. group, was that just from the beginning that it started, or where did you get that idea from? Dan Kennedy?
Yeah, completely stole it. I'm just going to come clean now. Dan Kennedy, I'm sorry. I haven't read those books. Now I have to read them.
You should. You should check them out.
So the slogan kind of came from client feedback. Just me, myself. I guess it came from being from New Jersey.
Yes.
I definitely have that blunt side to me.
Makes sense.
And I kind of tone it down just to be a little bit nicer. But it came from client feedback. It came from what people were appreciating. And so the initial slogan was actually the Bay's No B.S. Realtor.
Got it.
It then transitioned to the No B.S. Realtor.
Got it.
And now we have the No B.S. group.
I think it's genius. I love the brand. I think it sends a message that people do want, right? Which is they don't want a smoke screen. They don't want stuff blown up. You know what? They just want the truth.
And it's not for everyone. And some people might find it a little, I don't want to say offensive, but maybe they say, oh, that's a little much. Or that's not classy, for example. But the brand's a lot deeper than that. And for example, one of our core values is class. And so the brand itself is very classy. And that's something we focus on, is making sure that we operate with the highest level of class in the sense of always exceeding expectations. So whatever clients are expecting of us, whatever they think, oh, this is what average is, or this is what a really good classy agent would do, like we're aiming for up here.
Yep.
So once they get to know it a little bit more, they'd realize it's not. But the thing that I actually find offensive, because I'm actually a pretty conservative person myself, so I totally understand that perspective too for people, is when agents are just lie to people, and you see that all the time. You see the property that went, $100,000 price cut, $100,000 price cut, $100,000 price cut, and it's been on the market for 3 months, and that's a horrible experience. And that person was told that it was going to sell for $1 million, and it's a $600,000 home, And
yeah, nothing breeds desperation more than seeing multiple $100,000 price cuts.
Yeah,
in terms of how that agent has screwed over their client and just out of desperation to get the listing, probably.
And then meanwhile, the property could be worth $700,000, but then it sells for $550 because everyone thinks it has the Black Plague.
Right.
I think there's something severely wrong with it. Why in the world would there be $300,000 worth of price cuts, and why has it been on the market for 6 months? It's like, well, they just got lied to.
You mentioned we a few times, Conor. So what does the team look like right now? What's it consist of? How many agents do you have on the team? Are you in the process of growing the team?
Yeah.
What are you excited about this year as far as where the team is going?
So the vision and commitment for the team is by the end of 2025, it's kind of our 3-year vision, we'll have 11 agents on the team.
Okay.
And they're each going to be averaging $250,000 gross commissions. Before splits.
GCI, baby.
GCI, baby.
That's it.
Yeah, before splits. So that is something that I'm really proud of, and that's something that we're really committed to, and that's the resources, that's the culture. It's more of an exclusive mastermind. We're not going to be the team of 40 agents where 5 of them are doing all the production, and the other 35 are bartenders and, seamstresses, and they also are real estate agents, and they own 4 businesses. That's not going to be us. So I'm really excited about that in terms of what lifestyles that's going to create for those 11 agents, and the potency.
Is there a reason why 11? Just because you're the 12th and you're a follower of Jesus, or what, is there another mission?
There's no reason.
Okay,
yeah, I don't got
right.
a reason for that one.
Just curious.
But the mastermind of it and the potency of it. So as far as where we're going, that's where we're going. As far as what it means for the people involved, that's what it means. As far as where we're currently at, we currently have Kirsten, who's our team manager.
What's up, Kirsten?
Much more than that.
Kirsten's here right now.
She's behind the scenes. Kirsten,
my
I
bad.
said Kirsten a long time ago.
Yes, no doubt. I can't be screwing that up. She's the heart and soul of the squad.
She's changing her name to Kirsten with K-I-R, but the I has a Uma on top, the 2 dots. I've told her.
I don't even know how to pronounce the Uma correctly.
I just heard about it. I told her we need to add that because phonetically it's Kirsten, and it's really messing me up every time I look at it. So I'm like, we need to add the Uma, and now I can.
Now you can do it right.
Name. Yeah.
See, I'm not smart enough to figure that out. That would just confuse the heck out of me.
So we've got Kirsten, who's our team manager, and she's a rock star, and then we've got Cindy Bautista, who's also a rock star. She works on the buyer side, works on the seller side, works on the investment side. Works all of Tampa Bay. She actually also knows the Fort Myers area very well too.
Cool.
So, but this team is going to be Tampa Bay focused.
Was the goal to build a team from the get-go when you got licensed? Was that always the vision, or did that evolve over time?
No, it wasn't. For a good bit, my vision was, let's have 4 assistants. Let's make myself the most effective person possible. And frankly, for a while, I didn't want to build a team.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have an interest because I've managed people before and I know what that takes. And you can't underestimate that.
No doubt. What changed your mind?
A couple things. A, I realized that it is a natural progression and I have to stop resisting that. B, I realized we'd be able to provide much more value to the people that I'm already serving if I do have a team.
Mm-hmm.
And C, which is the most powerful thing for me that I've experienced through actually doing it, is you always have that imposter syndrome. And so going into it, I actually had the imposter syndrome that I don't really have a lot to offer. What am I really going to tell people? Is anything that I'm going to say to them useful, or am I going to get on a coaching call with someone and they're going to be like, yeah, I know.
Right.
Right? Or are we done yet? Right? But through doing it, I've realized how much value and insight I do have to provide, and helping out other people and having this collective vision, going back to the 250K GCI. I don't like talking about money really, which is kind of funny in the real estate industry because everyone's like, oh, I sold this much.
Sure.
Blah, blah. But I don't like talking about my own personal numbers, but that number I really like because that shows you what the lifestyle creation we're going to be creating as a team for each of those people.
That's the end game, right? That's why people are going to work, is to be able to bring home some cheddar for the family, right?
Yeah.
So makes sense.
That in terms of why I started and what motivates me, that's really what motivates me the most right now.
It's funny. Conor was recently on one of our panels too at Whiskey Cake. We had a Rising Star panel. I guess it was it this month? Earlier this month, yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny how fast time flies. So
was it not like last week?
It was like last week, I guess.
Okay.
Yes. So
I'm losing
time's
it
flying really fast. Absolutely. Lots happened, I feel like, in the last week.
Yeah.
But Conor was on there, and one of those topics that we did talk about was that imposter syndrome and the effect that has, right? And it was funny because it came up, I think, with all 4 of the panelists that were up there in some way, shape, or form. And you just mentioned it again. I think that's a common challenge that a lot of people have. And there's people listening to this podcast who are still newer agents. I think just the fact that you got off the gates quickly, right? Like you got licensed, immediately started getting traction. The fact that you were even honored and featured as a rising star shows you that you were able to do some things that are a little bit unusual, because most agents out there, it takes them a long time to figure this out, right? And to figure out how to be able to succeed in the business. Conor was able to figure out a way for him to work. Part of that, overcoming the imposter syndrome, might have been one of the things that helped you along the way. But I was curious if you could elaborate a little bit more on, as a newer agent, if you could think back to when you got licensed in 2018, what are some of the things that you did to immediately get some results and get some traction that might help some other people out there that are still trying to find their way and figure it out?
Yeah. I think the first thing is you need to check yourself in terms of the independence that you feel that you have, and the resilience that you feel that you have, and the invincibility that you feel that you have, basically irrespective of what's going on around you. Because all of us as realtors, for the most part, we're really all entrepreneurs. We all have that entrepreneurial spirit in some shape or form. We're all different, but we have a little bit of that, and we're all slightly independent. So you need to check that at the door in the sense of, if you want to do whatever your goal is, if the average of the 5 people around you is not that, I wouldn't bet on you to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's just no way around that. And that's something that I didn't accept for a while. You always want to like help
be a
people
lone
out.
ranger and figure it out yourself.
Yeah, or you want to help people out around you. You feel like the people around you don't affect you, but they do. And so if the average of 5 people around you is not the goal that you want in your first year, you're not going to do it. If you want to make 6 figures your first year, and you go to the office every day and you sit around people who are making, doing 5 deals a year and they make $40,000, I can guarantee you're probably going to make 50.
Mm-hmm.
You'll do a little bit better because your goal was 100K. Maybe you do 60, but you're not going to do 100.
Yep.
But if you are around someone who's doing 250 and someone who's around, maybe someone's doing 50, one's doing 100, one's doing 125, then you'll have a much better chance of getting to 100. And so I was very blessed that I joined the Tom Ferry coaching program right when I started, and I was around those people. And so they lifted me up.
One of my favorite themes is the concept that proximity is power. I stole that from Tony Robbins, and it's exactly what you're describing. The importance of surrounding yourself with people that are going to get you to think bigger, perform bigger. It's just crazy how much your environment really does play a role in your success. And I think another thing he just mentioned is coaching, right? Like whether it be a Tom Ferry program or there are some great coaching programs out there. Quick plug to Real Producers Consulting. We got that coming out this year as well. And so there's going to be all kinds of opportunities for someone to be able to get, surrounded with people that are actually doing what you want to be doing.
Yeah.
And if you're sitting at home eating bonbons, you're probably not getting out there, connecting with the people that are going to help you raise your game to the next level. And so shout out to you, obviously, for taking the initiative, because A, it costs money sometimes to do that if you're going to invest, right, in a coaching program.
Yep.
And then B, it just takes initiative to actually like get out there out of your comfort zone maybe and get involved in a community or a network that you might not feel like you deserve to be a part of, especially with the whole imposter syndrome mentality that we've already discussed, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of truth to both those points.
And I did have a full commitment going into it that I'm not looking to build, I don't know if the average statistic's still right, but the average agent sells, let's say 4 or 5 deals a year, they make about $42,000.
Yep.
That's not why I was shutting down my digital marketing agency, was to do that.
Of course.
And that wasn't what I was looking to do. That didn't excite me. That wasn't my goal. That wasn't something that I felt was me going to my fullest potential. So with coaching, to your point, I burned the boats and I committed a lot of money. I committed money that maybe I didn't fully have. I didn't. And going back to the traction part too, all
about burning the boats, by the way. Big Cortez fan. Big Cortez fan.
I wanted to quit in the first 3 months. I'm like, I'm terrible at this. I'm not very good. And so, but it's that persistence and it's the people around you and all of that. So the proximity to those people, having that coaching system, having those resources, and having them be able to check me and say, no, you're not terrible at this. You're getting a lot better. Here's how you've been getting better. Here's how you're falling short. Let's focus on these 3 things. Stop worrying about the big picture. Focus on these 3 things, or frankly, focus on this one thing for the next week. And if you do this one thing X amount of times, you'll be good. Just don't worry about anything else. And so you need that leadership from people who have been there before. And so whether it's a coaching program or whether it's joining a team, find someone who is already where you're at, where you want to be at, and take advantage of modeling.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. A lot of nuggets there. Love the modeling concept. We've already talked about the importance of coaching and making sure that you're surrounding yourself with the right people. All nuggets when it comes to how to really be successful. It's funny, like success is not a mystery. You really, when you study it and take the time to look at people who have actually done well in anything, real estate included, there's similar patterns, right? This is success leaves clues. And if you just simply follow those clues, you could be successful as well, in the real estate world and any business that is. And Conor's dropping nuggets of clues over here. And hopefully some of you guys are picking them up and ready to implement them into your business as well. I think another thing that I know we embrace here with Real Producers is the concept of embracing failure, because we tend to learn a lot from our failures. And a lot of people shy away from that. They're afraid of failing. And I think that's a wrong attitude to embrace when it comes to the lessons that failure can bring, right? Almost every successful person that I've had the blessing of interviewing through Real Producers over the last few years has some element of, like you just said, I wanted to quit at some time, right? And it's like a moment in that. Imagine how your life would be different if you did quit, right? Versus where you are today. It's crazy. It really is. And I told a story at the last episode. I'm not going to tell it again now, of how I went through that same thing, about a moment where I got a $13 paycheck and I was like, I got to get the heck out of this business. And next thing I know, my life's completely different because I didn't quit, right? And so can you share maybe an example of a time when you were very challenged, maybe just one specific challenge that comes up that you can think about, that was a moment, whether it was the moment you already brought up or a different one, that you could look back at as a really moment of a decision and say, this was a challenge that helped me become a better agent, as a result of that. Anything come to mind that you think could be helpful?
Well, I'm thinking about that, one concept that we discuss at the team is The Slight Edge, which is the one book that I brought up.
Great book. Yeah.
And one concept that I think is kind of important for this, even more so than maybe me giving a specific example for myself, is if you can kind of keep this in mind of, if you imagine kind of like a big metal wheel and you're trying to push this really heavy metal wheel, and it's pretty much impossible to push, and you push it inch by inch, and eventually, maybe after a week, a month, a year, like you're starting to get it to move a little bit. After a few years, the wheel is now moving pretty fast. Someone comes up and says, oh my God, you got to tell me, just 1 second, what's that one thing? What's the one thing that you did that got that metal wheel to be moving this fast? Because I would love that. And this same person, imagine you guys kind of start in the same spot. They also had their own metal wheel, but they just been running around doing whatever the hell. They haven't been doing that. And what you'll know in that moment is that it was not one thing. It was you pushing that 1 inch over those 3 years and doing the things that they didn't want to do. And so I can try to think of an example, but I feel like that's almost more powerful in the sense that if you can keep that in mind and realize that there is no shortcut to anything, and that you just have to be willing to put in all of that effort. And anyone that's ever done anything is not an overnight success unless they are and they won the lottery, and good for them. But that's not reality.
It is all about consistency, isn't it?
But, I would say as far as some of the things that have helped me grow, just saying yes to things in the sense that, and who was it? Oh, actually, I'm going to completely pass this off to, her name was Kristen. It's messing me up with Kirsten now. Kristen
Arsenault.
Yeah. So she, which is, I think this is a great example. She was doing showings within her first week and had no clue what she was doing. Even asked for help from the other agent. Was like, I don't even know how to write up this offer.
Yep.
So that I think is a great example of saying yes. And that's something I've done too, whether it's telling people that I can figure something out or that I can make something work, or going from only selling residential to now let me help you find an investment property. Just knowing that I was going to put in the work, I was going to put in the effort and make sure that I did right by them. If I had a knowledge gap, I was going to fill it, and not just fill it, but I was going to overfill it, where now I'm better than average and that I can make sure I do right by them. So I would say just saying yes and just leaning into those things, because you're going to have so many of them. You're going to have so many of them where you're like, oh, man, I don't really know if I can do this.
Yeah, and sometimes saying yes means getting out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
And that's not easy, because it's hard for people to be vulnerable enough to admit when they don't know something. And that's exactly what Kristen did. See, now I got confused as well.
Kristen doesn't have the UMA.
That's right. That UMA throws every. It's a totally different situation.
I kind of want an UMA in mine. That's such a cool thing. It's Conor, but with an UMA.
I don't think it would flow well with Don Hill. It's just hard to throw that into the mix.
Like, imagine Conor, but two dots above the O's, like both O's. That would be pretty cool.
Conair?
Something like that.
Okay, that'll work.
That'd be cool.
Excuse me. I wanted to get to one other thing as we wrap up in just a few minutes here, but this most recent issue, we featured you in our Making a Difference section, right? And this was a section that we do pretty much monthly, where we try to spotlight some nonprofit causes, things that are important. And I always find it fascinating how many of the top producers that are out there have certain causes that they're passionate about, right? For all kinds of different reasons. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe our article with you was about Big Brothers, Big Sisters. Is that right?
Yeah.
How did you get started with that group, that association? Why is that important to you? How long, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I'm a big believer of reaching behind and picking someone else up, as you get the one step further. And I was very blessed growing up in the sense of my family support structure, opportunities that I was given, the things that I was allowed to focus on, and I was just allowed to be a kid. I played sports, did all that good stuff. And Big Brothers, Big Sisters, with their one-on-one mentoring program, makes a massive difference in the lives of kids. And if you can think, okay, if you can impact the trajectory of a kid's life in the beginning, sort of like the plane, the example is, if a plane goes drifts off course by 1 degree, then it goes off by 60 miles, sort of thing. Yep. And so you can kind of imagine that this is the beginning of their journey. And if you can help them out by 1 degree, then that could make a massive difference that compounds over the next 10 years of their life. So I think that's a very impactful and potent cause to be helping, and they do such an awesome job with it. And I think they also have a great perspective on it. Their motto is defenders of potential. So they're not trying to fix anyone, they're not trying to change anyone. They're just trying to defend and encourage and support the potential that all these kids have. So I started being a big there. The bigs are the mentors. And it's been a year now, actually. I had my 1-year anniversary. Sounds like a relationship.
That's cool.
But yeah.
It's a great organization. I'm somewhat familiar with it too. I'm from Connecticut originally, and I worked with the Big Brothers group up there for a while. I have not done it since I've been here in Florida. But yeah, a lot of what you just said, I completely relate to. I think it's awesome when you could be a mentor. I like the analogy you used too, because with that flight analogy, most pilots are off course like over 90% of the trip. Really? Right? And there's a whole thing I've read up on, which is where they're constantly having to course correct.
Okay.
Because if they don't course correct, they'll end up in, Indiana when they should have been in New York. Right? Yeah. And so it's a great, powerful analogy about what drifting and where drifting can get you when you're not paying attention. Versus, I think when you're a big brother, many times that relationship that you have with somebody is really just helping them course correct. Yeah. Make small little decisions here or there that they might have drifted in a certain area, but because of that relationship, you can help them get back on track. Right. So I think it's an amazing opportunity. Says a lot about who you are as a person as well, that it's something you care about. I mean, it takes time, to invest.
Yeah, it does.
We all know how valuable our time is. And so it's cool. And I'm glad we were able to do that spotlight on you for sure. So I had a couple of quick last thoughts and a couple more like personal questions just to wrap up, make sure people know a little bit more about you. Family, you're not married, no kids yet.
Married, no kids.
Right. Okay. Got a girlfriend.
About. Don't have a girlfriend.
Don't have a girlfriend. Okay, so Conor's a single dude, ready to mingle, I guess. Maybe not. I don't know. So you could reach out for him if you're interested. But favorite book? You mentioned Slight Edge already.
Slight Edge.
So favorite book is Slight Edge. You would say it's such a powerful book, by the way. Jeff Olson's the author. I recommend all of you guys reading it. It's something I read about a decade ago for the first time, and I've read it like 3 or 4 times since.
I could name off a bunch. Extreme Ownership, Jocko Willink.
Another great one.
Power of One More. It's great. Exactly What to Say, Phil Jones.
I have not read that. All right.
I want to blow your mind.
We're big book readers here. So Ryan's Amazon Prime account is about to blow up. I mean, He's constantly ordering stuff. He's already placing orders as we speak right now.
I spend too much money on Amazon.
So do I. But it's a good investment, I guess.
The stack just starts getting higher.
Right. That's the thing.
I'm going to get to these.
You actually have to read them eventually.
I can still order another one. It's okay.
Right. Exactly. I got the laundry list just waiting to get through myself.
Yeah.
Favorite movie?
Oof. I said this one. I think it's Good Will Hunting.
Oh, it's a great one.
Right?
Yeah.
With Robin Williams?
Yeah.
I don't know what I called it before. I think I called it A Beautiful Mind. Even though
I think that's another movie. Yeah.
It's a great movie too, but I meant Good Will Hunting.
There you go.
I mean Good Will Hunting now.
A lot of powerful lessons in that movie too.
Love that movie.
Very cool. Favorite food?
Really good
Nothing
steak.
comes to mind, huh?
Really good
Just
steak.
you like it all? Steak?
Very good steak.
Steak guy? So if you want to have your date with Conor at a steakhouse, that's the way you go.
I don't know if I can afford that.
They'll pay.
I'm
It's
gonna
all
pay.
good.
I'm
They'll
gonna
pay. Yeah, it's all,
Chivalry's
don't
not
even worry
dead.
about it. Last thing I'll go through is we always ask this question. It's a little deep question, but the concept of, you're a young guy. You just got into real estate within the last 5 years. You might not even thought a ton yet about your legacy, right? And what you want that to look like and why you're even in the game. But when you think about, there will come a point where all of us retire. I don't know if I'll ever actually retire, but comes a point where we might change our interests in our time and where we put our time, right? What do you think is most important to you in terms of what you'd want to be known for, what you want your legacy to eventually be? I think the cool thing about legacy is it's what other people think of you. It's not necessarily just how you think of yourself.
True.
What would you want to be known for, Conor?
I would say, and this is a little abstract, but I would say carving my own authentic path that's unique. That I don't care that it's authentic. Oh, I care that's authentic. I don't care that it's unique. I don't care that it's different. I don't care if I share similarities to other people's path. And I guess this is kind of not answering your question, because the part to that matters most to me, that it was absolutely true to myself. That I didn't build my real estate team the way that most people do it. The same way that most people have a real estate team, and they'll just bring anyone in, they'll just churn them out. If they do a deal, great. They'll have some top producers, and then a lot of the other people, they don't do anything. Mm-hmm. And similarly with lifestyle too. There's a lot of people in the real estate industry that have very unhealthy lifestyles. And if you're not balanced with your lifestyle, then who cares? Money is one of the least important things in life. And so I would say legacy-wise would probably be, as far as other people, the people that I would care the most about would just be the people that are part of the group, they're on the team. If they were grateful for the fact that they came on the team and that basically changed the trajectory of their lives in a positive way and opened their eyes up to a much more balanced and healthy lifestyle when it comes to like the 7 equities, which is a whole nother conversation.
Ooh, we can have a whole other podcast on that.
Then that would be worth it to me.
That's cool. Conor and the 11 disciples, right? Is that what we're going to call them?
Yeah, that's getting weird. That's getting weird.
As you can see, I'm all choked up over here. I'm all choked up. Thank you for being here, Conor. Again, Tampa Bay Real Producer Podcast is the podcast made for real producers by real producers, and we had an opportunity today to hang out with a real producer, and Conor Green has been doing a great job in this game now since you got licensed, and exciting to see where the future will take you, my man. So
Thanks,
don't
sir.
be a stranger. Hopefully we'll see you at our upcoming, hey, you were nominated, we didn't even bring it up, but you're nominated this coming Thursday.
Thank you.
At our Agents Choice Awards. Conor was nominated as a Rising Star of the Year in the male category, of course. And if you go ahead and go to tbrpawardsvoting.com, you'll be able to see him on there and throw a couple votes his way next Thursday. Do you think you're going to win? What do you think?
Well, I paid someone to nominate me.
You can't say yes, so I understand. You got to show humility.
I can't pay for anyone else, so that was the budget. The budget was
one person,
extended.
one vote. That's our rule. That's the only rule we have. Anyone can vote. All of your friends from Dirty Jers, they can all vote if you want them to. Agents voting is weighted heavier, but one person, one vote. So hopefully we'll see you there and have a good time on Thursday night. All right.
I'll definitely be there.
All right, guys, stay classy. We'll catch you on the next episode.